Back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. This title was not clickbait. I honestly mean this. I think most money in this hobby will either be made or lost in the next 6 months. 6 months of Pokemon investing. There's so many little things going on in the hobby right now, and I'm gonna tell you right now. At all points throughout this hobby, there's always things that will gain value, and there's always stuff that will lose value. But in the next 6 months, I think we're really going to see a lot of make or break type things. There's stuff that is just happening right now that I don't know what like the true effects are going to be. A good example would be Whatnot. So obviously everyone knows Whatnot is no longer allowing like the gambling streams, the bounty streams, but they're still going to let those uh, streamers open up packs and stuff. But if you've seen any of the snapshots from, say, the Rattles Discord, you can see how upset a lot of these sellers are. Do a lot of those sellers leave the platform? Are they no longer going to be ripping on Whatnot because they can't get $10 for a pack of Paldea Evolved? They could only get whatever market is between $3 and $5. So it just stops being worth it for these people to stream. If that happens, it's that age-old question, that big what if. How much product might have been getting opened by Whatnot? Was it hundreds of booster boxes? Was it thousands of booster boxes? Was it tens of thousands of booster boxes? And if you have a lot of people leave that platform, what can that mean? Is that demand going to instantly be recognized throughout the entire market? There are a lot of people out there who solely just sell to Whatnot sellers. Like, that is an actual business model. And believe it or not, that business model was actually extremely fruitful for a lot of people. If you were just Whatnot rippers and shippers, like sole provider of product, it was actually a very good avenue. What do these type of effects have on the market? Another thing is, we're coming into reprint window. It's going to be make or break, because especially when you're talking about a lot of this later Sword and Shield stuff, it's make or break, because it's, in my opinion, it's either getting reprinted or it's not. If it does get reprinted, we'll see a lot of price retraces for some of that stuff. But if it doesn't get retraced, or if it doesn't get reprinted, we're just going to see a lot of that Sword and Shield stuff just exponentially go like parabolic in a way. Prices are going to go crazy. This is the thing. I don't know what Pokemon is reprinting or if they're reprinting anything. That's why, back to the title of this video, the next 6 months, and you have one or two options. You could either speculate really hard that you think reprints are going to happen, meaning if you're speculating real hard means you're kind of not touching anything. You might even be selling into this market as we speak. But if you don't see that happening, you might be buying up product right now. So all those people that are expecting reprints, you're just buying up all the stuff. It's going to be make or break. I'm telling you, there's two people on each end of that spectrum, and somebody is probably going to make a lot of money. I'm telling you, and those are just small examples. We're coming into 151. Obviously, the Japanese 151 came out way before English. In a way, I feel like some people that are, especially people that are super into modern, they're already like starting to get a little 151 fatigue, which I hate when that happens. I think people who are opening Japanese product, I still think that is a very small subset of the hobby, and I don't think that's indicative of the whole hobby, meaning everybody's getting burned out from 151, but there is at least a small subset of people that are already burnt out on 151. That's why I hate these huge gaps in between releases. But 151 is going to be coming out. 151, I think, in a way, how it rolls out, how much supply of this rolls out, will be a make or break for a lot of product in that 6 month timeline. If 151 is as mass produced as Pokemon could potentially go, meaning printers on absolute burr mode, that Mew Ultra Premium collection has the same amount of supply and stock as the Charizard UPC, meaning it's available for what will feel like forever. Prices for that product will not be able to go crazy if there's a ton of 151 ETBs printed. And I'm talking not Shining Fates first wave print. I'm talking massive Shining Fates in the long run print. And if you have that happen, if also you have reprints of some of the Scarlet and Violet stuff, so Scarlet and Violet base, Paldea Evolved, or what is the book? Oh my god, what is the most recent set? Can't even think of the most recent set. What the hell is the most recent set? I can't even think of the most recent set. There's too many sets in Pokemon right now. But Obsidian Flames. There you go. I can't even think. But if there's reprints of any of these, Obsidian Flames is obviously the most recent set. But if you have a ton of 151 supply, nobody's going to want to pick up these reprints. This is a crazy thing, too. If Sword and Shield reprints come at the same time as 151, it depends what are they reprinting for Sword and Shield. They've already kind of reprinted the two sets that were probably the most, well, I guess you could say three sets that were really the most likely. I would say Brilliant Stars was the number one most likely set. They reprinted that. The reprints were not nearly as big as a lot of people were expecting, but we did see the market correct. Those prices did retrace, especially in booster boxes. Lost Thunder, or not, sorry, not Lost Thunder. Lost Origin had a reprint. Those booster boxes retraced a little bit. It didn't retrace as hard because the way a lot of the supply was trickling out into the market, a lot of those booster boxes were being bundled with other products, so it was able to keep those booster box prices up. And then Silver Tempest. But now, what else is in there? Well, you have like Astro Radiance and stuff like this. Is Astro Radiance a set that is really in need of a reprint? I would say no, it's not. So if they did reprint like a more lackluster Sword and Shield set, because they've already reprinted the three most likely ones in Lost Origins, in Brilliant Stars, and Silver Tempest, if they go and reprint something else, I just don't see the demand being there for one of these maybe more lackluster expansions. But this is a problem with 151 too. If 151 has really poor print quality and these cards are not gradable, you could see people not even want to open the product at all. Now, if it's the other end of the spectrum and you see Celebrations S-type print quality, where in Celebrations, it seemed like, one, in Celebrations, everything was gradable. Number two, print quality in Celebrations was absolutely phenomenal. Arguably some of the best print quality we've seen for any modern set. There are so many what ifs, and they are on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Listen to the things I'm saying. The what if reprints happen, the what if reprints don't happen. The what if print quality is absolutely dog shit, what if print quality is absolutely phenomenal. What if product gets printed to oblivion in 151? What if it doesn't? I'm telling you, the next 6 months are going to be people will have the ability to make the most money that they have at any point in this hobby, or they'll have the ability to lose money, because all these plays, if you are playing this shorter game, if you're not playing the long-term investability 5-10 years down the road for Pokemon, if you're living in very much the now, there's going to be so many what if questions coming up in the 6 months, and if you guess right on those what if questions, I feel like those people that are guessing correctly are going to do phenomenal. This is the thing too. A lot of single cards, a lot of speculative single cards, a lot of emerging markets. There's a lot of what ifs there. There's a lot of prices that are really kind of stagnated in a lot of this product. I made videos talking about the Marnie Premium Collection. I think it was the third day it was released, but I made an entire video saying why I was super uncomfortable buying that product at the price I paid, because it was so out of my comfort zone and I wasn't sure if there's going to be reprints. It seems like there's going to be reprints in September. Seems like there's going to be another reprint of that product for the Marnie Determination box in September and December. We've already seen prices of that sort of retrace, about $50, which $50 isn't crazy, and then some of these are a lot more in shipping. But either way, that product has more or less stayed stagnant. I think a lot of people are nervous about the reprints. Those Lily Collection boxes, those Chinese boxes, they've really more or less stagnated. They haven't really gone crazy high up, but they haven't gone crazy down. They're just kind of flatlined. Like, that's the emerging market I'm talking. Looking at a lot of these Chinese product, a lot of the Chinese, market demand. Same thing with Japanese. Looking at Japanese, looking at like the Obsidian Flames releases, looking at what Japanese products are being reprinted. Now, there was a lot of Japanese products. People said Japanese doesn't reprint like specialty sets, V-Star Universe, like any of these VMAX Climax, stuff like this. No, Japan never reprints those. They're going to have one reprint and they're going to be done, if lucky. And that's not happening either. So there's a lot of speculation there. Like, there are so many what ifs. We are just on the precipice of so many little things happening. Same thing with like even modern cards. Whether you're talking team up alt art cards had massive run ups. Prices for those are still kind of going in the upward trajectory. A couple of them have little retraces, but it's more or less stagnated for a decent amount of those cards. Like prices are, I would say, like plus or minus 10% in either way. So plus or minus 10%. Those aren't big swings up and down. So prices like that have stagnated a little bit. Like Sword and Shield cards, especially like the bigger chase cards, Sword and Shield alt arts, stuff like this. We're seeing price like upticks for a lot of these cards. Recently, in the last month, a lot of those cards have had little retraces, but it's still an uphill trajectory. People are probably starting to speculate on those cards. The next 6 months is going to be make or break for a lot of those. There's probably a lot of those cards that could potentially be undervalued if you believe that even with large print runs, these cards will still have value, that people will still want to go after it. If you do believe in your heart of hearts that people don't just like the newest, don't just like the newest, shiniest thing, because a lot of the buying pressure we see in Pokemon is that newest, shiniest thing. Look at anything Worlds, oh, what are they? I'm gonna butcher the name. The Yokohama World decks with like the Pikachu. That card's going crazy. All the people like were real quick to grade those cards. People are doing phenomenal. I saw earlier in the chat somebody wrote a comment about Umbreon promos from GameStop. I mean, Umbreon promos from GameStop. What is that? Like less than a month old, but you had a couple people like rush graded those to PSA. Look at what a free Umbreon promo is selling for right now in a PSA 10. Don't get me wrong. In order to have a PSA 10 of a GameStop Umbreon promo, you have to pay a lot of money to get that card graded. You probably have to be pretty decent at pre-grading in order to not lose your ass on, I don't know what tier people probably send them at. Probably value, maybe, who knows, maybe even more, depending on how good people were at pre-grading, depending on how big of the balls those people have. But go look right now. Go look at Umbreon GameStop promos PSA 10 first to market. Again, I'm telling you right now, this is a story as old as time. First to market plays do phenomenal. They always do. There's always some buyer out there. Again, I know I beat this horse to death. I will never know who that buyer is, but that buyer has always existed. Ultimate race to the bottom. Race to the bottom is some of the most fun plays you could possibly have because for whatever reason, keeps playing out set after set, release after release, over and over again, what seems like into just perpetuity, into foreverness. It just always happens. But a play like that does fantastic. Like, that's why people that even did that play, look at how well they're doing. There's going to be so much money to be made or lost in the next 6 months. And there could be people out there sitting on Umbreon GameStop promos, and they're super familiar with grading. They're looking at it, and they're going, this is a 10. I'd bet my life on it. This is a 10. I know what a 10 looks like. And they're not express grading it. They're not doing the race to the bottom. They're just going to sit. They're going to throw it in their value bulk tier for $15. They're going to wait 3 to 4 months to get that back. And then the market's going to be wherever it is when all those bulk returns come back. And they're not going to be selling at the prices they're selling at today. They're probably going to still hold a premium. It's still a free card. You only have to spend $15 or $20 depending on the GameStop you go to. Because for whatever reason, GameStops are not universal. You got to, like, all GameStops don't have the same rules for whatever reason. I know it doesn't make sense, but they should, or at least they don't follow the rules depending on where you go. But like, that is a play. There will be plays that happens in the next 6 months, but like there's so many little what ifs right now, and even like a lot of vintage stuff. There's a lot of, I mean, go look at PWCC auctions recently, especially high grade vintage stuff. There's a lot of strength in that market. Obviously, we're not seeing 2020, early 2021 strength where all this vintage stuff was going absolutely parabolic, but there's a lot of strength in that market. You don't believe me? Go on PWCC, go look at last week's sales and just sort from highest to lowest. And there's a lot of modern cards in there, but look at all the vintage cards and then look at what they've been selling at for the last year. A lot of those cards are actually holding strong, like dollar amounts. Still very far away from their all-time highs, but they're still strong for those cards, especially when you're comparing them to even pre-2020 boom. They're still strong. Now, this is the thing. The question about cards like those are are you going to start to like look at some type of cards, some type of products as more like a store of value, where if you start putting your money or putting like your investments into certain things, there will probably get a time in this hobby where everything won't just be as dangerous, as high risk. You might start to look for that store of value. The same way as I don't like to do this comparison, but I will just for the sake of argument. Just like the same way a lot of people talk about like commodities and they talk about gold. You know, gold is a store of value. There might be getting to a point where there'll be certain items in this hobby that are just good stores of value, meaning prices, you don't expect prices for those products to be volatile, because right now, today, that's what we are living in. We are living in volatile land, meaning huge price increases one day, huge price decreases the next day. It's just total volatility. But maybe we'll start to look at certain products in this hobby and start to say, okay, well, this product has cemented itself to be a more or less certain price points, and all sales of that card are usually within 10% of recent solds. Things might become good stores of value. So when you get into more volatile periods in this hobby, which I think the next 6 months will be, because it'll be a lot of what is, I wonder if some people will start to look at these, certain areas of the hobby and saying, okay, well, I don't want to lock up my money in super volatile stuff that I don't know if it's going to be good, if I don't know if it's going to be bad, and they're going to start to lock up their money in this more lower risk type stuff. It's fascinating. It's fascinating watching this market play out and this market grow and change and adapt. And one thing this market is doing, one thing Pokemon is doing, I think the way Pokemon is just becoming more and more established, whether it's daily, weekly, hour, by the minute, it feels like Pokemon just becomes more and more established. I think there's a lot more eyes coming into Pokemon. I think people are really recognizing what Pokemon is doing. But when you have an established hobby, a truly established hobby, you will eventually have to start getting to some products that don't have wild fluctuations in prices. And when you have a more established, because really, in order to be as truly established as possible, you need to not have crazy price swings. You can't just have every sale be 40 to 50% either higher or lower than the previous sale, because that's not really truly indicative of a super established market. I mean, I guess you can make the argument that there are still wild swings in established markets, but you don't want to see that. And as this hobby grows, as time goes by, as just the clock ticks, I think you will see more prices on more products become more and more established. And I think we are already starting to see that, especially on sealed product. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, we saw, really low prices for, like, your real, call them the blue chip, just baseline, always going to be a buyer for this type product. Base set booster boxes, jungle, fossil. We saw wild prices for those. We saw base set booster boxes go all the way up to $30,000. We saw, Team Rocket at $15,000. We saw jungle at $15,000. We saw fossil at like $13,000, $12,000. And all those booster boxes have retraced. But if you look at where those booster boxes retrace to, base set went from $30,000 to like $12,000. That is a huge retrace, but $12,000 is still extremely higher than it was just a couple years before that. And if you look in the last year's timeline, you could see that huge like run up, but then you look in the last year and you look at how many sales happen at that more, call it a more established price range between $12,000 and $15,000, and you look at how many booster boxes sold at that price range, and you go, okay, like, this actually starting to make sense. Now, do I see crazy like crashes in that? No. I just see that as now being a store of value. But do I see crazy run-ups? Do I see that booster box going back up to $30,000 tomorrow? No, I don't see that also. It's funny. And then it's the same thing with some of this modern product too. Like, I'm starting to see some modern product start to really establish itself and actually like hold good prices, I think a lot of that is just, supply onto the market, but watching a lot of this stuff now start to become more established. Same thing, I wouldn't say so much with like Sun and Moon, because a lot of those Sun and Moon alt arts really did rise in the last couple months. So that's probably not a great example, but it's interesting just watching some of these, cards really start to cement themselves in, because in order to look for established cards or cards that have good price points, you hopefully want to see sale after sale after sale after sale all sell within a same price range. I think that is the more indicative thing for a super, super healthy hobby. What, and a lot of people aren't going to like to hear this, but what I think is an unhealthy hobby is prices that are just keep going up. Sale after sale is more and more and more and more and more and more money, because that is not a sustainable like growth. You can't just have every single sale from now until the end of time be greater than the previous one, because at that point it doesn't matter the card, it doesn't matter the set. Every single card on paper should be worth $1 million when you compound exponential gains and exponential sales over the next 5 years. And in reality, that is not possible. In order for, you want your chart to look like this, like a long gradual uphill, just long walk. Yeah, maybe you have a couple sales down, but like the overall trajectory is up. You don't want to see like mountain peaks, up, down, up, down. That's not what you want to see. That's not healthy. And the same way as it's not healthy to have exponential price increases that just keep going up and compounding sale after sale. You also don't want to see that on the negative. You don't want to see prices start to retrace and then compounding sale after sale after sale, or just keep getting lower and lower and lower. And then you really see that absolute truest of race to the bottom, dump it, flood it into the market, as toxic as you could possibly get of assets. You need to wash your hands clean of all this stuff. That is just as unhealthy. The same way as exponential price increases are unhealthy, exponential price decreases are just equally as unhealthy. You really need to start to see these baseline for a lot of products, and we're starting to see them play out a little bit. This market's still new. I always tell you, while I hope that one day this market does get to a more established hobby and it becomes that, and people do talk about this, and in the future people could really look at any product and know the price. There's a lot of cards even in today's market. While I feel I do keep an eye on a lot of cards, a lot of products, I am still to this day kind of shocked at some of the swings I've seen on certain cards, because the market is still so volatile on certain aspects of this hobby. So I hope it gets to the day where I could look at any card and I could pinpoint prices between 10 and 20%. I feel like that's a point where I would feel comfortable doing that. But even today, it's hard to do that. So many little cards are like doing their own little things. It's everything's everywhere. But that's the thing. Next 6 months, we're going to see drastic things happen in this hobby, in my opinion. Holiday season in this hobby is going to be huge. I don't know what demand is going to be during the holiday season. Demand will be needed to eat up a lot of this like Scarlet and Violet product. If demand during holiday season is as strong as I'm hoping, and as strong as a lot of people are speculating on, if that's the case, holiday season eats up a lot of this supply. We don't see reprints of a lot of this product. All these booster boxes right now, your Scarlet and Violet base, Paldea Evolved, Obsidian Flames, all fantastic, fantastic buying opportunities right now. If that exact scenario plays out, holiday season, shells get totally wiped out, distribution can't keep up with demand, product doesn't get reprinted. Beautiful buying opportunities. It could be phenomenal. It's just so many what ifs right now. Don't know, but I'm telling you, the people that are speculating are going to do really well. I'm speculating right now. I'm still speculating mainly in emerging markets. I'm pretty all in on that train right now, whether it was purposely or not purposely. I'm all in right now on speculating on PSA returns because, listen, I'm not a huge fan of the PSA pizza tracker, checking it all the time, but I found myself checking the PSA pizza tracker every day because I have Charlotte CollectorCon coming up in about 2 weeks. a lot of these submissions, I didn't really submit so much with Charlotte in mind, but a lot of these submissions in the back of my head, I still thought maybe they would be there. I have a 35 card submission, 21 card submission, 65 card submission, and a 70 card submission. So one of them or two of them's in QA1. None of them are in QA2. One of them's in assembly, and then one of them's in grading. And I needed to get to that 70 card submission to really get the more liquid cards, the cards that I was really hoping to have for Charlotte Collecticon. Because at Collecticon, my goal is I want to sell low dollar amount cards. That $30 to $100 price range. That's really the bread and butter. A lot of people I've talked to, that 70 card submission was a lot of those like huge margin cards, low dollar amount cards. Huge margins meaning, you know, $5 sub $5 card, $15 a grade into it for 20. You slap a $35 price tag on it, $40 price tag on it, PSA 10. Those were the cards I love. Where in person, margins for something like that are great. On eBay, start to get eaten up by eBay fees, start to get eaten up by shipping. Still money to be made there. Don't get me wrong at all. Still great plays. Only problem is those margins beat you up. I wanted to do a lot of those in person. I wanted a case of $40 and $50 cards. Man, if PSA just doesn't get my cards back to me, that's not going to be possible. And then I will have to do that eBay play. And while that's not the end of the world, it just it throws a wrench in a lot of stuff. But going back to what I was trying to get at is PSA, something's going on. Something happened. PSA wasn't grading any cards. I don't know if it was the move that they had from PSA transition and all the TCG cards being graded out of California into Jersey. If something happened, some problem along their logistics like train, but it seems like very recently everything is starting to get graded again. You could go look at the gem rate for PSA. I think PSA for TCG in the last month, it was like, man, I could be quoting these numbers wrong, but I think it was a 29% increase, which before that, month after month, was a decline percentage-wise of cards being graded, which didn't really make sense, you know. And the reason why that didn't make sense is because PSA, everything PSA was doing, building infrastructure, hiring more employees, multiple facilities, you know, with obviously California, now New Jersey, and then Japan is now grading their own cards. So all the cards that were coming from Japan to California, those are no longer coming. So, and when Nat Turner was on this channel, if you haven't had a chance to watch that interview, I recommend you guys going back. I think it's like a highlighted video, but or just type in Pokemon interview with Nat Turner PSA, and it'll come up. Great video, but Nat talks about it as being addition by subtraction. What he meant by addition by subtraction is because it's addition by more cards that they could grade in state, because they're subtracting all the cards that were coming from like Japan and stuff. So addition by subtraction, they're now able to pump out more cards, but it didn't feel like that. And when you were looking at that gem rate data, it was like month after month after month, PSA's grading less and less cards, and you're like, no, this doesn't make sense. It should be the opposite. They should be grading more and more. Every month should be more cards than the last, and it wasn't. But then to see the most recent gem rate data, 29% increase, that is a lot. I'm telling you right now, that's, call it 30%. That is a 30% like increase in production in 1 month. You don't just get to 30%. That's not a light switch. Something crazy must have happened. It's been a little disappointing, but I got a couple more days of August. I have 2 weeks in September and then a couple days. God, I hope I just check that pizza tracker one day. Everything just instantly burns through QA1, QA2. Everything gets shipped to me, and I can have those cards by Charlotte Collecticon, because, what did I say, 35, 21, 65, and 70, that's a couple hundred cards, you know, that I would really like to have. We'll see. We'll see what happens there. But if this is the case, if PSA is now having 30% increase in production, they're now going to have 30% more cards hit the market. Everybody who was sending submissions out from June, July, August, if all these get graded at the same time, they all get dumped out to people, then you're going to have a lot of people flooding the market with a lot of duplicates of cards. You might see potential race to the bottoms just because of that weird artificial backlog that happened at PSA. I'm not calling it junk slab error again, but you could see, I think it's become very obvious that a lot of people are doing the same grading plays. And if you don't believe me, you can look at competition for a lot of these cards. Competition for the things that I would call the quote unquote no brainer plays or the obvious plays, there's a lot of those cards. Competition is way higher today than it was 6 months ago, than it was a year ago, and far and out surpasses any sort of competition that you might have had 2 or 3 years ago. Forget about it. When you talk about competition you had 3 years ago versus a competition today, it's not even in the same ballpark. You're in a different hemisphere. It's crazy. So if you have a lot of these cards coming back, a lot of these graded plays where a lot, and I made a video talking about this. Is there an original thought in Pokemon? A lot of people might have original thoughts and they could be having them at the same time independently, meaning multiple people are having the same thought at the exact same time. So if a lot of these graded plays come back all at the same time, it could take a while to shake out these cards. That's why I'm telling you, next 6 months could be fascinating. But again, the same way as and trust me, this doesn't benefit me if I think that a lot of these cards are going to hit the market at the same time, but I'm telling you right now, if that's not the case, if it doesn't play out that way, people still can make a lot of money. A lot of people weren't actually doing the same graded plays. People were actually doing different plays. Plays maybe don't all get flooded at the same time. Then it's just business as usual. You got to look at your big things. Look at your eBay sales. Look at what, different cards are selling at. Shout out to Dan Catchmall Collectibles. I think in his most recent live, he did either this live or the last live, he pulled up like all data for, I want to say it was, the search term was like PSA graded cards, and I'm pretty sure it was like a 20% decrease from the previous month. 20%. I mean, it was still like 6 million cards sold or 8 million, what was it? Something crazy for the month. But it was still a 20% decrease. 20% is not unnoticed. There's a lot of people, people take it to the ultimate ends of the world, One person will have bad eBay sales for 1 month, and then they'll say, oh, the market's crashing. And Dan did a great job talking about it in his video that if people aren't doing sales, their cards are either, one, priced too high, people are selling stuff that people don't want to buy. They're not selling super liquid stuff. They think their stuff is liquid, or they're selling more or less junk slabs. And there still does exist junk slabs in this hobby now. Those junk slabs could just be field grading plays. Field grading plays could be PSA 8s. Listen, PSA 8, still a very near mint card. We've all done it. We've all sent away a submission hoping to get a PSA 10. We think that card is a PSA 10 contender, but for whatever reason, gets a PSA 8. That still happens, but those become junk slabs. That's why if you go type in PSA 8, you look at a lot of modern cards, you might be able to scoop those babies up for $15. And there's no money to be made selling a modern PSA graded card with a 7 cert for $15. Like, you don't make money doing that, but that's more or less, you're not even recouping, you're not even breaking even, you're just recouping a little bit of money. You just put it in because you're going to make your money on your 10s. Famous words were said. In order to make money in this hobby, all you got to do, grade 10s. That easy. But it's crazy. So, yeah, vintage slabs are, so what does this boil down to? Modern sealed product could do really good in the next 6 months. Could do really bad. Reprints could happen or they can't happen. 151 set could be make or break. Modern singles could keep doing uphill trajectories, could start to stagnate, could potentially start to retrace. Sun and Moon alt-arts that had crazy run-ups might continue those crazy run-ups, or they might start to stagnate. And actually, if supply of a lot of those Sun and Moon alt-arts actually hit the market because there was so much demand for those, prices of those could go down. Vintage, modern singles, specially graded. Look at PWCC. A lot of these are doing really good. You could have a huge pullback. People don't want to buy vintage cards because they're not going to see exponential gains. So in order to have stores, like a store of money, they don't want that. They just want the gain. So they're going to try to liquidate their vintage slabs. You could have the opposite there. So vintage steel product continue to store money, and prices could just stay pretty stagnant, which is not a bad thing. It's not a great thing. It's just a thing. Or you have a lot of people don't want to do that vintage product route because price points are too high. Vintage product starts a retrace. Holiday season could be make or break. Holiday season could have strong demand, especially for modern, especially from like the daily consumer. And all this product gets eaten up. Distribution goes crazy. Or holiday season's very lackluster. Supply is actually way too much. And then because everybody was highly speculating on holiday season, now everybody's like, oh shit, I just got too much product. I got to liquidate all this quick. Got to do flash sales, fire sales, race to the bottom again for modern all over again. Every single thing I said for every single topic is both ends of the spectrum. I'm telling you, the most money will be made or lost in this next 6 months. All those things won't play out exactly the way I say them, but some of them will probably play out. And this is the thing, it's going to come to that speculating phase. Speculate on what do you think is going to happen? Which end of the spectrum are you on? Are you the most ultra bear who ever lived, meaning every single negative situation that I played out happens? Are you the most ultimate bull, the bull of bulls, and every single positive scenario I played out for you, all those positives? Or are you just somewhere stuck in the middle? Are you that ultimate fence sitter where you're sitting on the fence and you have no clue what to do? You have no clue what's going to happen with all these product, And then I mentioned it earlier, that whole whatnot scenario. All the modern product, all the packs, and not just modern, vintage too. Semi-vintage, whatnot was opening it all. A lot of vintage booster boxes being open on whatnot. A lot of modern booster box cases were being open. How's that going to play out? We haven't seen it happen yet. It's, that new rule is just happened. They had a week to do it. So we haven't seen the impacts of that. When we go to Charlotte Collecticon and people are sitting back saying, okay, eventually my whatnot buyout's going to come strolling through and I'm going to liquidate all these cards or all these slabs at 70%, and 70% might not sound like a lot of money to people. It might sound like actual loss, but when your profit margins are absolutely huge in these cards and you're looking at 70%, you're like, I'll take 70%, liquidate me out of everything, no more headaches, like, let's do it. What happens if those buyouts don't happen? What if there is no whatnot buyout that happens because they no longer have that platform anymore? If they still have that platform, it's not as fruitful as it once was because maybe a lot of those were for those gambling games, for those mystery slabs, for those bounties. That's the way these people were liquidating these slabs. So they can buy a slab at 70% and more or less break even-ish on the slab itself, but because the bounty games they were running, because the pack prices they were selling, even though maybe they weren't making a ton of money on the actual slab itself, the packs they were selling in order for people to win that slab, the exponential prices, $10, $15, $20 a pack, maybe that's where they were making all their money. Maybe all this dries up. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Don't. Shout out to SM Pratt. Scott Pratt had a great video today, but one of my favorite Scott Pratt quotes, when Coops Collects was on this channel. If you haven't had a chance to watch that live, I recommend you guys going back and watching that live with Coops Collect. But Coops mentions this SM Pratt's quote, Scott Pratt has 2 balls. Neither one of them are crystal. And I'm going to use that same line. I also have 2 balls and neither one of them are crystal. Don't know. This market is absolutely crazy. So many good, so many bad. I don't know. I hope you guys are thinking about this stuff. I think next 6 months, though, is going to be a huge, make or break is a over exaggeration. There's no breaking. There's no making Pokemon at this point. There's no breaking Pokemon. But in a loose terminology of that, the next 6 months is going to be a big make or break because there's just so many what ifs stacking up right now that I can't wait. I'm telling, now you want to know what I'm doing. I'm speculating hard in plays that I think people are not doing. That's all I'm going to say, I got a lot of cards away at grading right now. I thought they were going to be back soon, but it doesn't appear like that. But I just bought more cards today. Every time I have any kind of extra money, like a couple bucks, I've been going real hard into singles. Haven't really done any sealed product plays. Probably, to be honest with you, I probably should be considering sealed product plays a little bit more. I usually just do my 1 booster box for my personal collection. I haven't even been doing that. Didn't do that with Obsidian Flames. Paldea Evolved, I bought 2 Paldea Evolved booster boxes. Never even bought a third because my second son was born. If you guys know this channel, if you're familiar with this channel, I buy 1 booster box for myself and 1 booster box for each one of my sons as part of their personal collection. So hopefully by the time they hit 18, 21, they have a huge, collection of every single modern expansion from the time they were born to the time they turn 18. And for anybody out there that says PK is an absolute bear in Pokemon, I don't really think me buying a booster box for my sons as an investment, so when they turn 18, they have a huge sealed collection of booster boxes. I don't really think I'm doing that, hoping that all those are going to be worth nothing by the time they turn 18, 20. I'm buying those with the expectation that they're all going to be more valuable than I bought them at. So, trust me, people still tell you that I'm a big, huge bear, and I fucking think this market's going to crash and burn all the time, even though I'm doing a play like that. But I should probably be buying some more modern stuff, but I'm seeing opportunities right now, and seeing opportunity with cards that are currently on the market in mass. This is the thing too. When I talk about modern Pokemon, when I talk about cards, I'm talking about stuff that is readily available in mass, meaning people are currently opening sets. There's currently a ton of product for certain cards, meaning when you go look at an eBay seller, they have multiple listings of a card. Their quantities can be 25 plus. I'll fucking buy out all 25 plus. Buy them all at once. Just clear out sellers. Like, that's what I like to do. So when I talk about modern, those are the things I'm talking. A lot of people will think I'm talking about modern and I'm talking about like XY singles and Sun and Moon singles. Sometimes I'm talking about Sun and Moon singles, but I don't really consider XY like singles and full arts or black and white. I still consider black and white modern. A lot of people don't think black and white is even close to modern, but I still look at it as modern. But when I'm talking about like the plays I'm doing, when I'm grading in mass, I'm not talking about those type of sets. I'm talking about the in the today. And what the in the today is different than it was 6 months ago, different than it was a year ago, different than it was 2 years ago, different than it will be in 6 months, different than it will be in a year from now, different than it will be in 2 years from now. What I'm talking about in the very, very now is so different. But like when I talk about the truest of modern, that's what I'm talking about. The stuff that is most available, because the thing about modern cards, modern plays, is while graded cards at release are selling for the highest price, singles are usually at the lowest because market has been flooded, oversaturation. Now, real early singles that hit the market for raw cards still hold a premium until like those big box breaks happen, until people really start to saturate the market. Like, hopefully at this point in this hobby, you have at least been through the ebbs and flows and you've seen this cycle of the market where you can now start to time this a little bit more. But yeah, and then we have that new Paradox set coming out too, and Paradox looks like it might be starting to look like a good set. I think it's still early. I don't love 2 different ETBs. Like, I don't hate 2 different ETBs. We'll see how ETB's promos are doing. I got beat up trying to do ETB promos recently with Obsidian Flames with that. Where is he? With this little guy. Got beat up with that play because my Pokemon Center ETBs weren't great. Did the same thing with Paldea Evolved. Open up a case of, again, these are very, very small sample size. We were talking 4 ETBs per case. So very small sample size. But Obsidian Flames, I got beat up with the Charmander. And then Paldea Evolved with the Pikachu. The Pikachu, which I love because love the Japanese SV001. Love the Chinese SV001. Easy play. Was hoping the English was going to do good. Especially the Pokemon stamped ones. I'm like, oh, if I could hit a freaking Pikachu, Paldea Evolved, Pokemon Center stamped promo in a 10, game over. It's going to pay for the whole ETB. The other promo that comes with it, the packs, those are all just going to be gravy. That's just going to be the absolute cherry on top. Fuck. Hell if any of that happened. So now it was a question of, do I want to grade these? I didn't get to express any of them. No Obsidian Flames did I get to express. No Paldea Evolved. I sent them at bulk. I'm into them for $15. To be honest with you, those $15 grading plays will probably end up being dumb plays. Probably the money to be made in those was, even though they weren't really 10 candidates, they were questionable. I should have just sold them raw. Well, you know what I mean by raw, like sell them in the actual cellophane pack. Don't open the pack and sell them raw that way. But yeah, that probably. And I knew it when I was opening it, but I'm like, I wanted to do this play. I'm going to do it anyways, and I'm going to cross my fingers and pray to God that grader, whoever's grading those cards that day, had a real good day. They're super happy. They're going to grade your cards. They get 10s. That's a stretch, but maybe they get a 10. Even those non-stamp promos, they get a 10. It's not going to be stamp promo 10 premium, but they'll probably still do okay, but we'll see. But like, that was just, there's so many little things happening at all times. Like, if the hobby was just a clock, how many gears are turning to make this freaking clock just tick is phenomenal. It is the most complicated, most like ridiculous amount of gears to make a clock just tick. And that's like every play is just tick, tick, tick. And it's just added another gear to that mechanism to make that clock go around. But let's see. Fun times. Real quick. I mean this seriously. There are 126 of you guys watching this real time. After the fact, when this video is all said and done, there'll probably be between 1,000 and 2,000 views. If you go in the description of this video, the number one link in this video is a link to number one mod in the game, Drew's Instagram page. Do me a favor. Real quick, pause this video, click on that link, go give Drew a subscribe. On his most recent post, just write on a post, put number one. Just let him know that we appreciate him, because Drew's absolutely killing it on every single live. He's always there. He's always super supportive. He does so much for this channel. But show him that we recognize you, Drew. You're doing a good job, man. But yeah, if for whatever reason, if that link in the description doesn't work, Drew could post his Instagram. I recommend you guys just giving a quick tap, giving him a subscribe, giving him a comment on one of his videos. Just let him know. Drew, we appreciate, man. I'm going to be honest with everybody out there. This channel does not run the way it does without Drew, without the other mods, especially the way I talk. I'm not really looking at the chat most of the time. I'm just usually doing my rants for holy shit, for the first 46 minutes of this video. I just talked into the nothingness, the void, which is YouTube. But I can't talk into the void if Drew's not there moderating this chat, posting links, doing all that cool stuff. So yeah, guys, I recommend you real quick, pause this video, click on that link, go give number one mod a follow on Instagram. I'd really appreciate that. All right, so real quick, I'm probably go for another 15 minutes and read some of the chat. Pokebondo, good to see you. Kevin Clare, Cameron Griffin, Sun Gonda said, Horden 151 booster bundles, let's go. Yeah, those booster bundles, a lot of people were really trying to go hard at those, because those booster bundles, if you are just going after that pack opening experience, it is the most economical. You're going to make the most money, or you're going to save the most money if you're trying to do the pack opening experience. PokeKid, are you PokeKid92 on eBay? Because if you are, I've been watching some of your graded pack plays just to see how they play out. Let me I can't pull it up right now. But how did you do, if that was you, how'd you do on your Roaring Skies packs? Because I saw he had hit a couple 9s, and I was trying to watch them. They had like 2 hours left on it, and they were pretty much at the price of grading for Roaring Skies packs. They're like $32 for a PSA 9. Obviously, a lot of the bids are going to come at the end of those auctions. But if that was you, PokeKid, what did your Roaring Skies pack sell for? Was it a win? Was it a loss? Because speaking of clocks, as that clock keeps ticking, my graded pack play from Z&G Emporium, all 137 of them are still in QA2. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Mapther, good to see you. Number one mod. Chris Texas. Namp90. I know a lot of people have been following Namp90's Instagram. Great Instagram. Drew also said road to 6,969. Oh, that's gonna be a huge milestone for this channel. I cannot wait. That's been one of those. Will it ever happen? I don't know. I hope it happens, but once it happens, it's just, I could just sail into the sunset at that point. E-Unit says, what's up, guys? Maxwell Gonzalez says, what up, gang? Never Cold. Mobile Prodigy said, folks, what's up? We got Dan, Mr. Catch 'em All Collectibles. We got Professor Oak. So Mobile Prodigy says 151 will get smoked at the printers. I think there is a high likelihood. It's interesting. We'll see we haven't really seen a lot of reprints of stuff if you think about it. Like, what is Pokemon printing? This is a question, that's the age-old question, the what if. What is Pokemon printing? There's a good likelihood that Pokemon's just been printer mode on 151. Like, they're like, okay, this 151 product is going to be an in-demand product. It's going to be a holiday season product. We need to make sure there's an absolute ton of this shit. And they might be printing 151 to absolute oblivion. Well, that's a crazy thing. If in a couple months demand is still so strong, what is oblivion? When you, I'm telling you, you don't have to go to college and take a, economics 101 class. I'm just going to give you the most simple definition. If supply is less than demand, prices will go up on the secondary market. It's that simple. As long as demand is greater than supply, it's that simple. That is economics 101. That's economics in a nutshell. That's it. That's the loose definition of economics. As long as supply is greater than demand. So even if they are potentially what we would say printing to absolute oblivion, as long as demand's greater than that supply, it'll be fine. It's crazy. But if Pokemon could figure out how to meet that demand and supply is greater than demand, then yeah, stuff is going to stagnate for a super long time. Got Basic Trader in the chat. Good. Can't wait to see old Basic Trader, my old friend at Charlotte Collecticon. It's been way too long since I've seen him in person. I haven't seen him since Denver Collecticon, so Denver Collecticon at this point seems like an eternity ago. Let's see. Basic Trainer says he's going to be playing in a MetaZoo $1.25 million tournament in October. Basic, I hope you get first in a 1.25 million tourney. How much is the payout of 1.25 million? That's an insane dollar amount. And how much of that 1.25 million, obviously only a percentage of that going to go to first place, and then how much of that is actual cash prices versus how much of that is in sealed product. Or when Basic Trainer was on this channel for an interview, he talked about when you win those tournaments, they give you like MetaZoo bucks or whatever, where you can use that money on the MetaZoo website and be able to pick up product. But it could be $100,000. Like, that's crazy. Let's see. Never Cold says, I wonder if blades at printers get sharpened or simply replaced. If so, I wonder how much something like that costs. That is a good question. I have no clue. But I would think that those blades are probably so expensive that they do go out and get like special sharpened, but I don't know. That's a good question. If anybody in here is like super familiar with like crazy mass printing processes, let us know. Like, do they sharpen these blades, or are they just a one-time done, kind of like, in a way, a very, very expensive disposable razor going and cutting these cards? I don't know. And it's crazy. I mean, I'm sure the blades are using are some crazy, like, hardened titanium, ridiculous blades, and it's probably pretty tough to actually dull those blades. But with the sheer volume of cards Pokemon's printing, 9 billion cards, like, how many sheets 9 billion cards is, it's got to be there's not 9 cards per sheet, but there's whatever, it's probably a couple 100 million sheets worth of cards. So even a titanium like blade is still going to dull after cutting through 100 million sheets. So it's a good question. I don't have the answer. Son of a Merc says, any thoughts on SM Pratt's video today? So yeah, Scott Pratt put out a great video. Scott always does great videos. Scott talked about his Patreon a little bit, but he just talked about kind of being burned out. And yeah, I mean, it definitely could get, I feel like I could see where it could get really taxing. There's a lot of people out there they do that attack style video on content creators all the time. They're always, and it's easy, right? Like, you could go back and take you could take one sentence of any of my videos for the last 3 years that I've been pumping out content. I don't even know what I'm at, 500 videos, thousands of hours worth of content. It is very easy to go back into any of those videos and take one sentence from one video, and you could probably spin that crazy out of context and really make it whatever you want. And sadly, I think a lot of people do that with Scott too. I think a lot of people would just cherry pick like one thing Scott will say, but There's a lot of people out there, they just go, I mean, that's the kind of videos they make. They go after I'm going to tell you why this person's wrong over and over and over again. I'm going to make you a video talking about this person, why they're wrong. I'm going to like do all this stuff. I'm going to, that's taxing on a lot of people, And then when anybody critiques those people, like they fall apart, they're made of glass. And it's sad because it's that whole saying, like, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Sadly, the people that are living in those glass houses, the people that are throwing the most stones, are usually the ones that are the most fragile too. So they just pile on, and there's a lot of that, like, there's a lot of negativity. The people just do like personal attacks. Like, I've been personally attacked multiple times by people. Like, it sucks. Like, fuck, I've been called the biggest gatekeeper in this hobby. Like, I've been personally attacked by people, and like, it felt pretty personal. Call me the biggest gatekeeper in the hobby, and where I always tried to make that my number one thing, to like bring on a bunch of people, with like random thoughts, you know, try to put information out to the masses, not put it behind paywalls. Try to put it out there, and my thoughts are going to change day after day, and try to highlight people in the hobby, like bring on different people, let them share their experiences, like things I always tried to do to be the opposite of the biggest gatekeeper in the hobby. But like, shit happens. Like, there are just some people out there, they will just attack you personally, and they just do that personal attack over and over again. But hey, I'm no saint. I've been on both ends of that spectrum. I've been attacked. I've also attacked. Like, you got to kind of just like live and learn. But I could see it. Scott, that was tough for Scott. Son of a Merc just says, just a generalization of his thoughts on the hobby today. Yeah, I mean, Scott's right too when he talks about, like, it wasn't always like this attack culture. Now it's, I disagree with what you're saying, so I have to make a video. Like, why do I disagree with it? And that's just, it's a lot of just like what has to do. Like, Scott talks about it in the past, where I think one of the examples Scott's uses is like Shadowless first, or not Shadowless first edition, just Shadowless packs. There was a couple variations of Shadowless packs that came out where, like, the uncommons in the pack were first edition cards. They weren't repacks, they weren't scam products. It was just, at the time, Wizard of the Coast had just changed over the print run, going from first edition to Shadowless. So those really, really early Shadowless waves, like, there's a couple uncommon first editions got thrown in with Shadowless packs, like, and it wasn't really a big deal, but it was just like a cool thing. Like, Scott talks about, like, that used to be the thing, but now it's like anything Scott says, it's like, really got to critique everything he says, and like put it out to everybody. Like, why is he wrong? Like, let's ignore all the shit Scott has done, like all the good advice he's ever given, and like, God forbid Scott fucks up like one time on one thing. It's like, let's attack that. Let's ignore like all the time Scott was right. Scott's been back into this hobby hardcore since 2009. There's a reason why Scott's collection is worth millions upon millions upon millions. And the crazy thing is people don't even know what Scott has. Scott has, I mean, Scott was on this channel, talked about having 29 trainer A kits. Like, nobody has that. Scott has it. Like, first edition, like, booster boxes Scott still owns. I mean, first edition booster boxes, Logan Paul at one time was buying them for like $250,000. Scott still has first edition booster boxes. He still owns a lot of vintage steel product. His Illustrator Pikachu, I know he's always like flexing that price, but Scott has done a lot of huge plays talking about, like, especially Japanese promos and stuff. But like, the thing is go look at Scott's eBay page. People are like, Scott only likes vintage stuff too. Scott's Patreon, he was talking about buying Japanese XY promos and doing those graded plays. Like, go look at Scott's eBay. I haven't looked at Scott's eBay in a long time, but I bet you if you looked at most recent sales and you sorted by highest price first, I bet you most of those recent sales are XY promos. Newsflash for you, XY promos are still very, very modern promos. Like, he was doing very, very modern promo plays. Like, his Patreon and a lot of the advice he was given was all modern plays, but yet somehow, because Scott does have a big vintage supply, because he does have a lot of vintage product, he does get lumped up into like only vintage. You got to keep in mind, Scott Pratt is, for a long time, I think he's probably been surpassed now, but for a while when it came to Japanese modern sealed product, Scott Pratt was the number one seller of modern Japanese sealed product. Scott had some of the best relationships in this hobby with people selling modern product, but yet somehow Scott just gets unfairly lumped into like vintage fanboy. That's it. And it's like, that just shows people like don't really understand Scott. Like, I mean, even Scott's more recent videos and things Scott's talked about recently, like probably got him wrong, but like still talked about like the Illustrator Charizards and stuff, like how he liked that play, and just those are all modern plays. Like Scott talks about modern all the time, and I don't really understand how he somehow got lumped in. Maybe because like that's what Scott likes, and I feel like maybe sometimes people, I don't know if they go on the defensive, because you should be allowed in this hobby to just like whatever you like. If you like vintage, you should be allowed to collect vintage. If you like modern, you should be allowed to collect modern. Like, it's become this weird thing where it's like, you're not allowed to like this stuff. You're not allowed to want to invest in this stuff. You're not allowed to want to buy this stuff. You're not allowed to think this stuff is undervalued. Like, it's gotten to this weird point where, like, if you think this stuff is undervalued, you're wrong, because your opinions are now somehow wrong. And it's like, no. I mean, I do it on this channel. I'll talk about modern cards, but I'll say, like, race to the bottom. I collect modern cards. I collect sealed product. I'm just saying, I wait for my buying opportunities for some of this stuff because I wait for the market to like work its way through. Some of the cards I've most recently added to my collection, you know, the the Mew character rare from Crown Zenith is one of my favorite modern cards. I added that card to my collection. Sleepy Pikachu from Lost Origins, one of my favorite modern cards. I added that to my collection. My favorite cards, the Pikachu character rare cards from Cosmic Eclipse. Love those cards too much. Got 2 of them signed by the illustrator himself. Like, love modern cards. On my shelf, I only have 1 booster box. It's front and center. It's my most favorite modern set. That's a sealed booster box of Cosmic Eclipse because it's my favorite modern set. Like, when this channel started, all I did on this channel was talk about modern. I talked about Cosmic Eclipse on every single video for what felt like months. It was like I had Tourette's just saying Cosmic Eclipse over and over again because I like modern. Something, somehow, somewheres changed where like it became like a group of people versus group of people. Like, it was a fight that never should have existed in the first place. It's just fucking weird. But yeah, it's weird. But like that, yeah, that's my thoughts. So hopefully that answered your question, son of a merc. Luke Gale says, it's like the Japanese modern single market right now, kind of hitting its peak. Have to ask if the top cards of sets release at lower prices or hover around the mark. A lot of Japanese singles have really decreased on a lot of product. Like, so I'm not really 100% sure on what you mean by that. I mean, obviously, there's the extremes, like the Japanese waifu cards and stuff. A lot of those cards are just doing absolutely parabolic, you know. So it's funny, like even in Japanese product, there's no simple answer. It's not all Japanese cards are now worth more money. It's not all Japanese cards are now worth less money. It's always somewhere in between. Like, some are doing absolutely fantastic, some are doing absolutely terrible. Let's see. Never Cold says, hope you get your slabs back in time, PK. I hope so too, my friend. Mobile Prodigy said, PSA slow motion right now. Hardcore, yeah. Luke Gale says, still good buys to be made on singles, but yeah, not buying Japanese boxes and supporting the current market trend just made in... Yeah, that's the thing about Japanese product too. Recently, a lot of the Japanese product, there was a lot of people FOMOing into that. You FOMOing into that because you just really, really want it. You really want to open it. You really want to experience the set. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody to, like, not spend their money. I'll never do that. But if you're FOMOing into Japanese boxes because you're like, okay, this is going to be a sealed product play, I'm going to buy this as an investment. You look at like what a ton of Japanese sealed boxes recently, what the prices were right at release versus what happened after a lot of these reprints. Even like the really good sets, like, V-Star Universe and stuff. Think about what V-Star Universe was selling at right at release to what V-Star Universe was selling at after reprints. So yeah, if you were just opening that because you wanted to and you want to experience a set, it's fine. But if you were doing that in an investment, you got beat up really bad, investing in Japanese sale product. Yeah. So Never Cold said, Jesus, 90 is already below distribution prices. For it to go lower would be a rare occurrence. The sellers would be getting hosed too. Yeah. I mean, that's absolute worst case scenario. I mean, we've seen it play out in this hobby. It's been a long time since we've seen, boxes sell for, drastically less in distribution. But problem is, a lot of the people that are buying products at distribution, like, Mason Cardinal Gaiman did a great video the other day. It's just like opportunity cost. If let's say you are all in on a box from distribution at 96, and that booster box is now selling at 85, you're going to lose money on that. Do you want to sit on that booster box, wait for it to eventually hit 120, 130? So now you have good margins. Well, you look at that booster box, you go, okay, if it hits 120, 130, I could make money. I could still have decent margins. How long could this potentially take? How long does it take for Paldea Evolve to hit 130, 140? You can make the bullish argument that it doesn't in 6 months. You can make the really bearish argument that it takes 3 to 5 years, and all that's going to depend on reprints. So for a guy like Mason, you got to say, okay, well, what's my opportunity cost? Do I want to just fire sale this stuff, get $90 out of it, be out of it, lose $5 per box, but I can now take that $90 and I can move it into product that it does sell. Now, I don't have the answer for those type of people. The only people that have those answers are the people doing those plays, are the people selling that stuff. So when you say, well, prices can't get below 90, it just becomes that opportunity cost. If people really in the future start to see this product as immovable, unsellable, could potentially take 3 to 5 years. Or, somebody is sitting on a ton of Paldea Evolve and go, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to wait. I need the money, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to hold true to my guns. I'm waiting for that 130, 140 a booster box, and then they get rumbles of, reprints from distribution. They go, reprints? I can't sell the shit I have. Like, how am I going to fucking take reprints now? So then they're like, all right, reprints are coming. Gotta sell for 85. Another guy's panic selling too, and you get that $80. But that's taking a lot of liberty saying like these things are gonna happen. Again, back to what I said earlier. I have 2 balls, neither one of them are crystal. Shout out to SM Pratt, like best quote ever. But it's the truth. Like you don't know. Let's see. Tom B said PSA is getting a little faster, but last week and this week they have a little faster this week and last week than they were in the last 3 months. Hell yeah. Things were dead. Like, there was a while, and again, we're not going back, like, in the way back machine. I'm just talking about June of this year. You would send a submission to PSA. Within, like, the first 2 days of them receiving, your cards were already, like, fast-tracked to stage 4 grading. It was crazy, but now it's like, fuck it, you send a submission to PSA, it's just in order arrived, like that stage 1. It hasn't even been processed yet for what feels like as long as it was taking them to grade cards at one point. It's ridiculous. So E-Unit says, modern PSA 10 buyers do not care about population. I would go out on even further of a limb and say modern PSA 10 buyers don't even know what pop reports are. Luke Gale says, graded cards are pretty damn cool, but I love binders. I'm telling you, if you love binders, you are doing this hobby correct, especially if you're doing it from a collector aspect, Like, if you think about it, you could go to the extremes and say, like, well, first edition Charizard, even a PSA 7, is still pretty expensive for your binder collection. But removing some of the really, really top of the end, highest, most expensive cards, if you go through most sets in this entire hobby and you say, I'm happy filling my binder with just near mint, so PSA 7, PSA 8 quality cards, you can complete damn near every single set in this hobby for relatively cheap. Again, like I said, there are those outlier cards, but those outlier cards, the value of them in PSA 7, yeah, like obviously if you're going to go after Deoxys, like even if you're going to go pick up a near mint copy of Rayquaza, it's still going to cost you expensive. Any of the gold stars. So, you know, Deoxys, Delta Species, Harlem Phantoms, Dragon Frontier, especially with like the Gold Star Charizard, any of those cards, even in PSA 7, is going to be super expensive. Crystal Charizards in the 7, Crystal Niddle Kings, Crystal Lugias. Oh. Shout out to Professor Oak for the sneeze. I felt that one coming. Couldn't get away from it. Mobile Prodigy said CGC took a big step back with the merger, new slabs, and the whole 9.5 debacle. Yeah, weird, but I don't know. Seems like CGC is still chugging along, looking at how many cards are being graded. Pretty low, like month after month, but we'll see. We'll see how the market handles it. I think people out there, listen, I do it all the time. I take for advantage how deep down the rabbit hole we are. But there's a lot of people out there don't even know what a CGC slab is. I know that sounds crazy, but they don't. They might know what graded cards are, but they might not even know what a CGC slab is doing. We just take for granted that everybody knows just as much as we do. We are in a very small minority, a very small subset. And as I say, as Basic Trainer says, we are in the niches of the niches of the niches of this hobby. When I quoted gem rate data, when I talked about how many cards are graded per month, there's probably people even deep down the rabbit hole that have, fuck if I know how many cards PSA graded last month. Fuck if I know how many CGC or Beckett or SGC. I don't know how many of those cards they graded because they don't even follow that stuff, and they're deep down the rabbit hole. So we're a lot of like, if this hobby is just that standard deviation, we are the definition of outliers. And as standard deviations work, like everybody's in that mean. That's where everybody is. And we are just like this little steeny standard deviation dot, you know? That's it. Son of a Merc says, raw dog binder, boys, yeah. Legend of Luke, good to see ya. Luke Gale says, PK, you prefer slabs or raw binder for your personal collection? I know you always have like selling graded. For my personal collection, I do have like a couple I don't really have binders anymore. I had binders at one point, but I have, for a while I was going after a complete 102 card of base set in first edition, a mixture of first edition, shadowless, and unlimited. During the boom, I decided to sell all those graded cards, and I kept my personal collection. I still had my childhood cards, that my original 102. I did grade all my holos. I kind of wish at this point I didn't, but that's like one of the binders I have. I have my original collection as a kid, and then I have like a Skyridge binder that I still kept, and then at one point when what are they called? Semi-rigids, card saver ones, when they became damn near impossible to get. Black Card X did a big sale. Rusty TCA Game and had like a promo code for Black Card X. They're like the CGC slab or ones. Hold on, I think I might have one. So like these slabs. So like they had like the CGC, but they were the Black Card X. When Card Saver ones, and you couldn't really go on and pick up those. I picked up a shitload of these, and then I just picked up thousands of these, and then I opened up all my binders, penny sleeved and top. Well, they were all in penny sleeves, but I just put them all into these CGC card saver ones. So that's what happened with like a lot of my binders. They more or less got liquidated. So, but I do like the thought of binders, but I'm still trying to go after some master sets in PSA graded cards. I've talked about my Skyridge master set, trying to do my master set in Skyridge in non-holos, reverse holos, and then all the crystals in both holo and reverse too. So it's a lot of cards. So it's a combination of both. Never Cold says, English flipping the release of Obsidian Flames and 151 really screwed sellers. They're fire selling Obsidian Flames to fund for a 151 allocations. I would say there's probably there's probably a lot of merit to that statement, definitely. Saul Salinas says, a lot of trainer gallery cards have poor PSA 10 pop reports, such as Sleepy Pikachu. Should I still attempt a 10 or buy one? So Sleepy Pikachu is a great example of a card that like actually makes sense. And I graded Sleepy Pikachus in order to sell those cards in person. Like, I had the hindsight that I graded Sleepy Pikas to actually sell those in person because they, at the time, I had a floor price set of $5. So any card that reached between $5 and $6, I was just snatch buying up on eBay for a long time. So I said, okay, if I could be into all these cards for $5, grade them for 15, and my lowest grade I could potentially hit is an 8. Can I sell this PSA 8 for $20 in person? And can I sell a PSA 9 for $25? So 8 would be a true one-to-one break even if I could sell these in person. They are not sell on eBay type plays. These are in person. I said if I could sell a Sleepy Pika in person for 20 and break even and sell a 9 and still make $5 per card, what is my upside on a PSA 10? And within the last 2 weeks, you could go on my Poke Knowledge Cards account. I think I sold 5 of those Sleepy Pikas at between like $70 to $75. Just in the last 2 months, I've sold 5 PSA 10s. That's a $5 card. Cost me $15 a grade, and they're selling for greater than $70. Like, the margins there are so big. And I just said to myself, I said, I knew I was going to Charlotte Collecticon. I knew I was vending. I was like, this is a play I'm willing to take. It's the same way as, so hold on. So this stack right here, I don't know if you can see it. Like, these are all Sleepy Pikas. Every single one of them. Like there's a lot of Sleepy Pikas here with that sole intention. So I was fine with doing this. And like and one of the reasons I did it was because when I was in person at Denver Collecticon, I had so many people come up to the table that I was helping Nick Old School Pokemon at. And the people kept walking up and they were saying, I was like, what kind of card do you like? They said, I like cute cards. And I said, there wasn't like a lot of good cute cards. I was brainstorming like, what can a cute card be? And I said, okay, Generations Radiant Collection cards. A lot of cute Sylveons and Pikachus. And I was like, you know what? Generations Radiant Collection cards are not going to be great to source. And they're going to be really hard to source even with outside shots of like 9s or 10s. And I'm like, okay, Generation Radiant Collection cards don't really work. And I was like, you know, there's like some cute cards and like Call of Legends. And I was like, you know what? I need to just do modern cute cards. I'm like, okay, is this a cute card? In person, can I sell this card for $25? And if I could sell it in person for $25, I could still make $5 and have huge upside. And if I hit an 8, can I still break even? And I looked at a card like this and I said, this is what I was looking for Collecticon. Shout out to Retrospecs. You could ask Retrospecs. Josh, the old card shop. We sat in the lobby of the hotel and I talked about a card that I was going to make a play on. And a cute card. And another one. Like another card that I said was going to be a cute card. Like, here you go. More cute cards. If I hit 9s on $5 cards, is this a cute card? Yes. This is the background of today's video. Is this artwork? Can I sell this card in person for $25? If the answer was yes for me, I was like, I'm fucking doing it. We're masquerading all these things, and we're gonna do the in-person play. So yeah, when you said a lot of trainer gallery cards don't hit PSA 10s, you are correct. Like, my PSA 10 rate was very low, but I still am very, very happy with this play because the price point to buy into these $5 cards, Now those cards have actually probably gone up in value. You probably can't even pick them up for $5. But at the time when Lost Origin came out, I was just searching sellers that were like selling lots of 17, 13, 12. I was messaging people who I knew were doing box breaks saying, hey, listen, I'm buying these cards at $5 or $6. If you open any of them, I'll buy them straight cash. You don't got to worry about fees. Like, I'll just PayPal you, just mail them to me, as many as you pull. People were saying okay, so I just kept doing it. And that is a play that I feel very, very confident in person. I can make $25 in a PSA 9. And if that's the case, that's $5 per card. I'm very, very happy with that. And every single PSA 10 I made $70 plus. Like, I'll rinse and repeat that shit forever. Where this play deteriorates real quick if in person I can't sell them, or if I don't go to an event in person. That only worked because of the conversation that me, Retrospecs, and Old Card Shop had in the hotel lobby, trying to like brainstorm a good in-person card. This is a good in-person card. If you guys want a Sleepy Pika from Lost Origin and a PSA 9 for $25 in person, you know what table to come up to. I know that was a long-winded like response to your answer. I'm sorry for that. Man, it is getting late. It's 11:30 Eastern already. I'm already been going for an hour and 20 minutes. You guys are great though. Fire Fist Ace says, interview Cool Trainer Ryan or Leonhardt. Well, I think I've interviewed Cool Trainer Ryan in some form, one or another, plenty of times on this channel. I think there's 14 episodes of the podcast plus his one-on-one interview. So Cool Trainer Ryan has been on this channel 15 times. Now, Leonhardt, I would actually like to have Leonhardt on the channel. I know Leonhardt sometimes gets shafted by the hobby and recently, but I mean, I would like to talk to Leonhardt. Like, I like to pick his brain because you could say what you want about the dude. He still did manage to like grow a massive channel. You talk to a lot of people that re-entered this hobby from 2016 to present. Leonhardt was probably one of the very first channels they found, one of the channels that got a ton of people back into the hobby. So say what you want, the dude has at least got a ton of people back into the hobby. It's the same thing, like you look at like PokeRev. What is the thing that PokeRev has done? If you had to say, what's the thing PokeRev has done for this community above all others? PokeRev helps to get people back into this hobby. Because the PokeRev type content is going to be the first stuff you're introduced to when you get back into the hobby. So by, getting that kind of stuff, to be interacting with that type of stuff, it is a huge net positive. And if you could get a guy that enters the hobby, starts off at a PokeRev until eventually they make their way down to this channel, and hopefully, if you guys haven't hit the subscribe button, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. Maybe they'll become subscriber number 6,969. Maybe they will become that subscriber, and they started off on a PokeRev or a Leonhardt video. So, but yeah, I wouldn't mind interviewing them. I think it would actually be a lot of fun. Never Cold says, fence sitting is way more exciting than it gets credit for. Yeah. Jade Rabbit says, after the dip of Obsidian Flames, I'm holding off on pre-ordering Paradox Rift. I think all the Scarlet and Violet sets for the next few sets will dip after release. Possible. I hope that doesn't keep happening, like, for what could... We live in the now of Pokemon. Like, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope we don't see every single set of Pokemon keep dipping at release from now until forever. That would be a really, really bad feeling. Now, Pokemon always controls their own destiny. The second Pokemon realizes that demand is starting to diminish, because it's hard. I mean, there are 9 billion cards. That's an incredible amount of cards to like really get a good feel of how much you have to ramp up printing, or how much you have to like decrease printing. So Pokemon has this ability. If they start to realize demand is dropping exponentially, all they have to do is limit how much they are printing. That could be easier said than done, but if Pokemon has a really good finger on the pulse of this hobby, and they recognize this, and they are trying to keep the secondary prices a little inflated, because at this point, the people working Pokemon Company, the people working their business, they know what's driving this hobby right now. It's a lot of the speculation. It's a lot of the investors. It's a lot of the adult. Now, you can't ignore what the kids are doing too. The playability aspect. Worlds is the biggest it's ever been. The Hartford Regional was the biggest it's ever been. Like, events are huge. There's a huge playability. But Pokemon needs to understand where a lot of this demand is coming from. To not cater to those people at all is the death of this Pokemon hobby. But if Pokemon has a good finger on the pulse, and they do cater at least a little bit to that side of the hobby, we could be in. I mean, that might never happen where prices start to keep going set after set, become less and less. We could just right now be living in the ultimate, like, supply of product that we'll ever see in our lifetime. I don't know. 9 billion cards might be the most cards Pokemon ever prints in 1 year. Don't know. We'll see what happens. If demand continues to grow, more people continue to enter this hobby, and 9 billion cards doesn't become enough, maybe we see 15 billion in a year. Maybe we see 20 billion. Now, those are huge leaps to get to 20 billion, but hell, I would have told you it's a huge leap to go from 4 billion to 9 billion. So, hell if I know. It's all going to depend on demand. It's all going to depend on the future. It's going to depend on how healthy this hobby is. I don't think Pokemon could ever get to 20 billion if there is no secondary market for these cards. I do not believe that, because I do not believe people would have enough of an incentive to open a ton of product in order to justify that 20 billion amount. So Pokemon controls their own destiny. That's it. That's what it boils down to. Same way as what Magic is doing, and MetaZoo, and Flesh and Blood, and Sorcery TCG, and One Piece, and Dragon Ball Z, and every freaking card game in between. Like, every one of them, and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all these, they all control their own destiny. And they control their own destiny by how much they print. I shit on MetaZoo a lot. Not a MetaZoo fan. Never been a MetaZoo fan. This is not a channel you come to for hype up MetaZoo conversation. But I will give MetaZoo credit where credit's due. MetaZoo for Wilderness, they printed something like 100,000 booster boxes of that set. Wilderness crashed and burned. There was just not enough demand to eat up 100,000 booster boxes of a set. What did MetaZoo do? They quickly realized, and their amount of booster boxes they printed for the following sets drastically decreased. Well, I might not like MetaZoo. I might not believe in MetaZoo. I might not see the future of MetaZoo. At least I can see that one thing they did and say, at least what they did was smart. That was at least well thought out for them to decrease how much they were printing. So there you go. Basic Trainer, if you're still in the chat, I just gave MetaZoo a huge compliment. They did something right. Fire Fist Ace says, I'm at the Elite Four in Crystal. That's awesome, man. What are you... Fire Fist Ace, if you are still in the chat, I want to know, who are your starting 6 right now? Who are you going up against the Elite Four with right now? Mobile Prodigy said, 1,000% Paldea is underrated. Yeah. This is... Okay. I'm going to go on a limb. Can you find me one person that tells you Paldea is overrated? This is the thing. Paldea, I can't name you one person that doesn't like Paldea. I love Paldea. I'm going to go flat out and say it. A lot of people I talk to like Paldea Evolved. I personally don't know one person that says Paldea Evolved is a stinker set. So, is it underrated when I can't name you one person that doesn't like it? That gives you something to think about, though, right? But let me know. Maybe you could think of somebody off the top of your head that's like, no, this person hates Paldea. So, Luke Gale says, yeah, I think Paradox is going to have similar amounts of SIRs, IR hits to Paldea, which is a lot. Yeah, Paldea was a huge set, which the fact that Rattle Pokemon was able to complete Paldea Evolved in, was it 2 cases? He got super lucky, didn't get a lot of duplicates, if any, of some cards. But the fact that he was able to complete that set in such a small, sample size of boxes is pretty intense. Legend of Luke says Paradox will be the Fusion Strike of Scarlet and Violet. I wonder if you mean Fusion Strike because, I like Fusion Strike. I think Fusion Strike is a great set. When you think about the hits in Fusion Strike, you have the Espeons in there. You have the Gengars in there, obviously, and still the Celebi. Fusion Strike is a solid set. Only problem with Fusion Strike is Fusion Strike, yes, the Gengar gave that a little bit of a set identity to it, but Oh, and then even the Mew, obviously, the alt art Mew. I hated that alt art Mew. That alt art Mew is like one of my least favorite alt arts because when you look at that Mew, you feel like you're missing the rest of the artwork. You're like, I feel like it's a zoomed in image. Where's the rest of this card? Like, what am I looking at? That's the only problem I ever had with that Mew. But yeah, that's still a good set. Like, alt art Gengar, alt art Mew, alt art Espeon, alt art Celebi. Solid set. So, yeah, I'm curious like what you mean by Gengar or by Fusion Strike, but at the same time, Fusion Strike is not like a huge fan favorite set. Meaning, I don't want to say people dislike Fusion Strike, but I think Fusion Strike just gets very much overshadowed by other sets right around the same timeline. Evolving Skies gets overshadowed by Brilliant Stars gets overshadowed by. You can make the argument that Lost Origins with the Garantina with the Aerodactyl V kind of overshadows it. So could that just be it? That Fusion Strike is a little bit just overshadowed by all the surrounding sets, but it's far from a poor, lackluster set. And shout out, I know I mentioned Retrospecs earlier, but shout out to Retrospecs again. Retrospecs always, I think he put it this way, like, just wait. In a couple years, people are going to look back at Fusion Strike and go, oh my god, look at how good of a set Fusion Strike actually was. So, okay. Yeah, Mobile says, as CTR likes to say, corners fucked, edges fucked, PSA 7-8. Yeah, that's a welcome to modern Pokemon all over. Yeah. I know he's talking about vintage, but yeah, it's modern. Especially English quality. Legend of Luke says, send a grader a box of chocolate with your sub. Works every time. Yeah, I can only imagine like a box of melted chocolates with your PSA submission. The damage that could do. Between the Ropes says, PK, how do you gauge your level of being risk averse? Dangerous. One word. Dangerous. I have really pushed the envelope on a lot of things in this hobby. Dangerous. That's how risk averse I am. Dangerous. Make or break. Like, most people are establish themselves, so the risk they are taking, like, don't make or break. We're making and breaking at this point. I'm going so hard to the extreme that my plays will potentially lose money if they don't work out the way I expect. I mean, I talked about the pack rate and submission. I've talked about it recently because it's in QA2. It's going to be hit in the market. It's 137 packs, $4,200 just in grading fees for packs. If all those packs hit 8s, I will lose $2,000. That is pushing the envelope. So when you ask, how would I gauge my level of risk averse? Dangerous. One word. Like Austin Powers' middle name. Dangerous. I think I got to the point where I told everybody to go down in the description below and click on the top link and give number one mod in the game, Drew, a like. Oh, where the hell am I? Did I jump all the way to the... How far back in the chat am I? Holy shit. I gotta really jump real quick. Jade Rabbit says, Jesus, I think we'll see $89 UPCs on those Celebrations UPCs. Oh, I hope not. That's scary. It's still a solid set. I mean, I've seen Josh the Old Card Shop make the argument that Mew is the best alt art in the whole set, and it just happens to be a promo. So, I mean, you still got the gold cards. If the gold cards could grade good, I mean, I think that's the best Mewtwo alt art. Obviously, we've only seen one other Mewtwo alt art. Well, no. Do you consider the Crown Zenith Mewtwo like the alternate viewpoint? You had the Charizard viewpoint from the Charizard UPC and then the Mewtwo. Do you consider that an alt art? But if you don't consider that an alt art, then the other alt art Mewtwo is from Pokemon Go. That alt art is meh. It's very mediocre at best, but that Mewtwo alt art from the Celebration, or the, not Celebration, so 151 UPC, that is a mean artwork. That looks like a mean Mewtwo. That's how I like to imagine my Mewtwo. I don't like to imagine Happy Mewtwo. I like to imagine my Mewtwo as destroying all humans, armored Mewtwo. You know, Giovanni tried to clone Mew, created this monster, kept him in a tube. Shout out to Shining Legends, Mewtwo card. The best Mewtwo card that exists. That's a modern card. I think it's the best Mewtwo card is the Mewtwo. Love it. But that's how I like to imagine my Mewtwo. Mean. That is a mean card in that 151 UPC. Well, Roddy says, all I know is those blades were dull as shit for burning shadows. Yes. As dull as they can get. It looked like some kid was using their like kindergarten safety scissors to cut up cards. That's how bad that print or that cutting quality was. Uh, let's see. Let's see. Nate G says, with how upset people get, it makes me feel like they don't collect. They just get upset because they want to make money and don't like people saying anything negative about the stuff. Yeah, that's probably a good point too. I think people do get very defensive on like what they're buying. You know, when people say, this is a problem. It's like, just let people buy what they want. Let people collect what they want. Like, and try not to like morph people's words and like just take it out of context all the time. Don't make that your sole purpose in life, to just take 30-second, 1 minute, 5 minute clips from hours worth of content of people and then just, nitpick that stuff. And if you are like, don't do the same thing. Mapthor says, I love the art and cosmic. Yes. I got a bone to pick with somebody out there. Actually, we're doing it. We're going to do exactly what I said don't do. We're calling out Mason Cardinal Gaiman. He said that the Blastoise and Piplup alt art from Cosmic Eclipse was one of the worst alt arts. That's it. See, I just broke my rule. It took me 15 seconds. How dare you, Mason? That is a beautiful artwork. But see, this is the thing. When I talk to Mason, Mason's a good friend of mine. It's a little bit more joking. I think I actually commented on that video. But I think Mason also knew what he was doing. He was looking for that engagement. Don't let him fool you. He was the mastermind. He was a puppet master in that one. He knew. You make those real clickbaity type videos where you go after people's fan favorite Pokemon cards. Let's see. Yeah. I'm watching you, Mason. And remember, everybody out there, Mason doesn't hit the like button. He wants you to think he hits the like button, but he doesn't. He asks you to hit it on his video, but he doesn't hit it on mine. I'm watching you, Mason. I'm here. I'm watching you. Mason's probably out there watching this either real time or after the fact, going, here we go again, PK. I love Mason, though. Yeah, that was one of the most fun times I had was in Denver, getting to talk to Mason, getting to meet Mason in person. Mason's a good dude. Let's see. Sorry guys, I know I'm not reading anything, I'm just looking. Chansey Fan Dan says, we are in the niches, but when you're buying raw anywhere, they're all pre-graded so hard. Yes and no. If you think that, you got to watch Dan's most recent video, or one of his most recent videos, when he talks about his Celebrations Charizard play. They're not all being graded super hard. Like, you can still pick up certain cards and still grade 10s. So, not all... If you're just doing onesie Tuesday of sellers, where a seller is just selling like a one-off of a card, you look at their other listings and it's nothing but graded cards and then like a handful of raw cards, then yes, you are buying from the wrong person. But if you're sourcing from the right people, you're sourcing people you know are doing mass openings, you know you're sourcing from people that have quantity listings of 20 plus of those cards, they're probably not doing that graded play, they're just doing the raw play. So your likelihood of getting 10s from those people are drastically higher. And you'll get familiar with the names. Or you do what I do. I've talked about this before. I have a certain handful of sellers that I buy certain products from, whether that's modern English, whether that's Japanese, whether that's Chinese, certain sellers that I know don't pre-grade. And I will even pay a premium to buy their cards. So even if that person is, say, 5-10% greater than current market value, I'm not going to just go, even though you probably should be searching eBay, buy it now, lowest price first if you're trying to go after those large quantity listings. I will sometimes just, I have that seller saved. I immediately go to that seller's page. I'll search for the card I'm looking for right from their eBay store, and I'll buy them out, and I'll pay that 10% upcharge just because I know for a fact that the cards that I get from this person are always like well maintained. They always come to me in penny sleeves. They're taking good condition, or they're taking good, like the condition of these cards are good. They're taking their time opening them from packs. They're not coming with a lot of like damage call it unnecessary damage. And you know what unnecessary damage means is people are opening packs. They're poorly sorting out those hits. They're not properly taking care of them. And you can see that down the line when they make it to you. But yes, I save those sellers and I'll pay that 10% premium just for that. I wouldn't call it, I guess you'd call it peace of mind in a way. Man, I am far back. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to skip a lot of these. Jesus Gutierrez says, PK, how many sleepy Pikas did you pick up? Over 100. So, well over 100. I think I have, I have a graded pile. I'm just, I mean, this isn't all of them, but I have like multiple packs of them. Just, these are ones that are like, weren't even worth it, the grade. So like I just have sleepy Pikas everywhere. But yeah, well over 100 of them I've purchased. But like that's the play I like to do, is just grade them, you know, be into them for a couple $1,000 and then just try them, move them in person. And I was looking for the car, and at this point I could blow this play up. Collecticon is 2 weeks away. Nobody's gonna steal this play, but like I said, when I sat in that hotel lobby and I was talking the retrospects and I was talking to Josh, the old card shop, and we were talking about cute cards, this was the card. This was the card I landed on. This and the the Mew from Crown Zenith. Those are the two cute cards that I landed on. And yeah, you can look. Literally, the clues have been there. Go on my lives. Look at the most recent lives. Look at the card artworks that were the backgrounds. You probably could go back 4 videos and you can see the Sleepy Pikachu was the background for my thumbnail. Go to today's video. What's the background? It's that Mew from Crown Zenith, the artwork. The clues are there. They were there. I sprinkled them in. But those were the cards I landed on, with Collecticon solely in mind to sell cute cards. And I'll let you guys know how this plays out. For every girl that comes up to my table and says, I like cute Pokemon, I like cute cards, this is it. That's the cute card. Sneezed again. Sorry. Shout out to Professor Oak. Hit the like button if every time I sneeze you just like, Jesus Christ, PK. You just stop sneezing in a video. I don't even know what I'm allergic to. I'm allergic to something down here. Let's see. Nevercold says, how much of that 9 billion were energy bricks, though? A lot. I have no clue. I mean, a lot. There's a lot of energy. I mean, 9 billion cards sold. Man, I'm gonna guess this wrong. Is it 18 languages, though, Pokemon's printed in? I can't even name them all. There's Italian, there's English, Japanese, Korean, Chinese. Nope, can't even try to name all the languages, but I think it's 14 languages. There's a lot of languages that Pokemon is printed in. So those 9 billion cards also include all the different languages, all the different language variants for cards. So, all right. I'm beat. I scrolled to the bottom. Hour 42 minutes. Holy moly. Listen, guys, if you are watching this video real time, you make it to the end of these lives, I appreciate you guys. Do me a favor, hit that like button. If you've watched this video after the fact and you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, also hit that like button. Remember, in the description of this video, before you click off, the very top link is #1 mod in the game, Drew's Instagram. Click on that link. Give him a subscribe on his Instagram. Comment on one of his most recent posts and just type in #1. Let him know you're thinking about him. Let him know you appreciate what he does for this hobby. But yeah, guys, if you are new to this channel and you've made it to the end of an hour and 43-minute video and you still don't want to hit the subscribe button, I can't help you there, but just hit the like button. As always, guys, appreciate every single one of you, and I'll catch you on the next video.